3. Go, sister. Thrive.
Okay. Welcome back, party people, to another episode of Here's My Number. It has been a hot minute, and we have missed you all. Thank you all so much for all the love and support we've gotten over the last few weeks. It's been so dope, and we hope you all had a most fabulous, wonderful, special holiday in the world.
That was adorable. Wow. Way to kick it off, sister. I'm proud of you.
Good vibes only.
Good vibes only. All right. Tell me, how are you? We haven't talked in a while.
I'm kicking it. I cannot complain. You're doing better than me drinking wine
at 4:30 p.m. baby.
We are back in our different country mobile podcast setup, so it's only 10:30 where I am, so I'm still drinking coffee and Leah's drinking her wine. But how are you? I feel like I haven't talked to you in forever either.
I know. I'm good. It gets dark here at 4, so that's why I was like, I need wine to survive this. But thriving, just living life
as per usual.
Trying to. Yeah. What did I ask you before? Oh, what was your favorite Christmas present?
My favorite Christmas present was a hairdryer, which I know sounds like a stupid hype gift, but I've been using the same one since I was a freshman in high school, so it's been through some shit, and now I'm really moving up in the world.
Also, when I lived in New York, I feel like I didn't have a hairdryer, so I feel like I used yours.
Yeah, that thing has seen some things.
Well, you will be excited about this because last week, or when I was in New York, you were like, you wanted a pair of these. So I got a pair of Crocs for my brothers, and I was like, literally, I told you, I was like, if you get those, we don't have to be friends, but that's okay.
She's a hater.
And now I got a pair of Crocs. I literally was like, this has to be a joke.
I know. Well, I can't wait for you to fall in love and tell me I was right.
All right, let's move on. Move on to bigger and better things.
Yes.
Like this episode today. So, we've all heard it before. He's so your type. Oh, he only likes those type of girls. Or what's your type? And guess what, y'all? You guessed it. Today, we are talking about why the hell we are attracted to certain people, certain types of people, and not others.
Mm-hmm.
And all around, love is a mysterious thing, and that's the beauty of it. And there's no real calculation as to why it works or not. But for attraction, we have learned that there is. Attraction is all about science and biology. And today we will tell you a little bit about why you're attracted to that douchebag or that whore.
I was just going to tell you sounded like such a college professor until you said douchebag and whore, but either way, it's okay. Yeah, I'm so excited to get into this episode because I feel like me and you disagree about types and if they're a thing or not, but we're always actually on the same page. We just can't communicate in that way. But that's okay.
We have a podcast together.
Yeah, we're growing, we're learning, we're growing, we're maturing. But anyway, I read a really interesting article that Time magazine put out about a study if people do or do not have types. And the way they did it was they took 35,000 people, all of which were twins. It could be fraternal twins, identical twins, whatever other kinds of twins are out there. But they did this with the intention of figuring out if your type is something that comes from your genes or if it's something that's based on experience, which I think is so interesting. And basically, long story short, your type is based on experiences that are very specific to you. So who I might be attracted to could be so and is so different from my sister's type. Even though we were raised in very similar ways, we have very different life experiences that might make us attracted to certain people. So if you were to give me and you 10 people, we'd only agree on probably 5 of them, which is so interesting and
I know.
does feel right.
Accurate. Yeah. I was gonna say, I feel like sometimes we're both like, oh my God, I need to marry him. Like
Yeah.
both of us. And then the other time we're like, what do you see in this guy? Like,
Yeah.
he looks homeless. Okay.
Well, whatever. So I thought that was super interesting
It
because,
really is.
and like, there's like the general idea of beauty, which I think most people can agree on. Like, people tend to be more drawn to symmetrical faces. Like, the more symmetrical and even a person is, the more society thinks that that person is beautiful. So that's, like, doesn't count.
I know. And I feel like that ties into a whole other like conversation about like how beauty is defined today. So maybe you should just do an episode about that, because that's like going into like the Kardashian family and like
the
blah,
general
blah, blah, like the standard of beauty, which is a whole different thing. Now we're actually just like straight up talking like science and biology, and like at the end obviously we'll give our take on it, but you know.
Yeah. Just because someone fits the normal standard of beauty doesn't mean they have to be your type, but everyone can agree that that person is beautiful. But
Yes.
We're not talking about those people today because they get enough credit as it is. So.
Oh, yes. Amen.
And if you're one of those people, fuck you. Just kidding.
Good for you, but also fuck you. Goodbye.
Get the fuck out of my face.
All right. So one thing that I found, just going from what you said, is that there's 5 main factors to why we're attracted to someone. So the first one is proximity, how near you are to someone, how often you see them. And I feel like that's also why sometimes like you might have known someone at one point in your life, and then suddenly you start seeing them more, and then suddenly you realize, oh wait, this person is attractive, because you suddenly like start hanging around them more. And that, and I feel like that's like a given almost. But again, that one is changing because the world is getting more and more digital, and people like Olivia will put their dating profile to London and meet someone in Arizona.
He just unfollowed me on Instagram this morning. How fucking rude. Also, side note, I did just set my dating profile to Austin, Texas, and let me tell you, those men are handsome. Very symmetrical. Very symmetrical faces in Austin, Texas.
I feel like I took a screenshot of that, so maybe that'll be the cover for this episode.
Okay, moving on. Next one.
The next one is similarity. How alike you are to this other person, like all your similar interests, the way you want to live your life, if you want to whatever travel 24/7, if you want to have a 9-to-5 job, that sort of thing, like your interests and your values. Yes. Then number 3 is it's hard to say this word.
It's how much the feeling is reciprocated.
Thank Just you. Like that's the word, reciprocated. So we're more likely to like someone, or just like people in general who like us. And I feel like I started thinking about that not like in a lovey-dovey way, but like if you're like, oh, that girl doesn't like you, then right away you'll be like, well, you know what? Fuck her. I don't like her either. You know what I mean? And then the same thing like goes the other way. If someone's like, oh, that person really likes you, you're like, oh my God, I love them too. Even though I don't, but okay. And this next one, which is probably the most obvious one, is physical attractiveness. So how pleasing they are to look at. Like, are you attracted to them? And with this one, I have a fun fact, which blew my mind.
For physical attractiveness?
Yes, physical attractiveness. So not surprisingly, sexual attraction is largely unconscious, which I want to say surprisingly. Like, I didn't actually know that. Like, I thought we had more control of it. But anyways, we don't. So the section of the brain that's responsible for regulating all our essential functions like hunger, sleep, whatever else we need to do as a human to live, also plays into role here. So we've all been there when we meet someone and like right away we're like extremely attracted to this person. And a part of the brain called something fancy. Again, I'm not even going to try to say
the hypothalamus.
Oh, sister. Good job. Okay. Well, that part of the brain releases dopamine and serotonin, causing this sensation of lust or love. So it's literally a part of our brain that does that. Like, it's not just like you being like psycho and horny. Like, that's just, I'm in my mom's house. That's why I'm whispering a little. That's like literally your brain doing that to you. So that's also this fancy part of our brain is also why we usually, most people like decide within the first 3 minutes how we feel about someone because of this fancy part of our brain. What the heck? All right, that was just like a little fun fact, and I just love that one. Okay,
That is
and then,
interesting.
right? That was like, wow. Like, you know when you get like a little sweaty and like your heart starts beating? Well, it's not your fault. It's your brain's. Then the last one is how familiar this person seems. Like whether he looks like someone you knew at one point, or whether he dresses like, I don't know, your childhood best friend, or like the area you grew up in. Stuff like that. Just something that seems familiar and safe to you. And those are the 5 main factors to why you're attracted to this douchebag.
But I think I'm like reading over these or listening to you, and I think such a big part of it is that when you say like I have a type, or like I'm like, oh, that's so and so's type. It's strictly based off the way that person looks, and so it goes so much deeper than that. And I think that's where me and you disagree sometimes, where it's like, well, I'm not dating this person who looks like my type, or like I'm not into that person because they don't look like my type. And it's like, okay, but maybe they fit every other aspect of your type, and that is why they are your type. You can't help who you love. And I feel like it goes so much deeper than a skater boy, or it goes so much deeper than a man with tattoos and a beard. And do they fit your personality type, I guess. So, and as we were like getting ready for this episode, which is so weird to me, but so much of what we want to talk about comes up in like what I remember learning in school for social work. And so much of it like fits, well, I guess it goes back to like your environment and the way that you were raised. But in school, we're taught a lot about attachment theory, and it goes all the way back to when you were a baby. So like if your mom let you cry it out in the crib, or if like when you're hungry, if your mom makes you starve it out, like it depends on like how your needs are met. And so there's 4 different types of attachment, and each person falls into a different type of attachment theory, and which we won't get into because it's a lot, but that follows you through your whole life. So like it shows how you make friends, it shows how you connect with your parents, it shows like all these different things, and plays out into your romantic relationships as you get older. So if you have like an avoidant attachment type, you're more likely to have an unhealthy relationship because you don't know how to form secure attachments with people. Does that make sense?
That's so interesting.
Yes. And so your type is going to be somebody who matches and gives you what you need for attachment. So if I need someone who's like scatterbrained, I'm probably going to be in more of a toxic relationship with someone who will walk away or will like do all these different things because I don't feel or don't have the capacity to know how to form secure attachments.
So it's like a subconscious decision we make to like find these people that fit into these boxes.
Yes. And that's how it goes. It goes like all the way back when we're talking about like being with people who we feel familiar to. This is like, this sounds weird and it sounds incestuous, but I do not mean it this way. But when you're going into a relationship with someone who like you actually want to be with, so many of their personality traits are like what they're giving you is how you were raised. So it could be that it could mimic a relationship that you have like with your dad, or like, you know how they like people are like, you have daddy issues. That comes so much into your relationships with people.
So I wonder if that's why people say like you got to figure out your own shit before you like find the person you're going to be with. Yeah. Because like if you have all these issues, wouldn't you just like portray that into your life and like find the person that fits into that box, and then it would be a mess anyways. You know what I mean? Wouldn't it?
Yeah. So if I have a shitty relationship with my mom, I don't, but if I did,
Mhm.
And I wanted to mimic that because that's what I'm used to. That's how I know how to show up for people, is kind of being toxic or whatever. Then that's what I'm going to try to find in a relationship or a partner, because that's familiar to me. Like I remember when I broke up with my first boyfriend. Now I'm like rambling, but that
Hey, I
relationship
love the rambling.
that relationship was a disaster, and it was one of those like
Oh, yeah, it
young
was.
it
Oh
was.
my god.
But it's like one of those relationships where every time you fight, you're like, fine, this is it, we're breaking up. And then it's
Mhm.
like a disaster. And then I remember I got into a relationship right after that, and I tried to do that in a fight. I was like, fine, this is over. And he sat me down and he was like, I know this is what you used to do, but like you're not doing this shit with me anymore. So if this is what you think this is going to be, you're wrong. And I was like, oh, okay, you're right. Like, just because that was in my last relationship doesn't mean I can keep doing this in every single
Yeah.
one.
And I think that's interesting because I also read that, like, yes, we will like gravitate towards what seems familiar, but that doesn't mean like, and obviously, like, people are fucked up, and like a lot of what happens as a child, like, as you said, like, goes with us.
Mm-hmm.
But I also read that people also change. Like, we get new
Mm-hmm.
things that are familiar to us, we get new things that we gravitate towards. And I was thinking about it from my own life that, like, the last guy I saw in New York, and I don't want to like define them too much how they look, but the last guy I saw in New York
Was
looked,
a smoke show.
he was, let's just say he was the most beautiful man I've ever been with. Anyways, his complexity, the way he looked, was new to me, but it was such a success. Maybe not like emotionally, because like we were good together. We were like, I wasn't stimulated like the way I should be. Like, is that the right word? Do you know what I
Yes.
mean? Like, he just
Yes,
he
it was
wasn't
the right
enough.
word.
He wasn't enough in that way, but like his looks and everything else was such a success. And I kind of feel like that's why I started gravitating towards people that look like him as soon as I moved to Miami, because I was like, oh, this worked out well that time. Now I'm just gonna do the same.
Mhm.
And like, I didn't even look at anyone else that didn't look the way he looked, because I was like, this is my new thing that seems safe, that seems normal.
Mhm.
And then like once I got out of that, it was such a thing that I was like, oh, we'll get into that next episode, but I'm seeing a guy now. And
And this
as
there
this
it is, ladies and gentlemen. She's seeing somebody now. There it is. I was waiting for that to come out. Thank you and goodbye. Episode's over. Peace out.
so the guy I'm seeing now, he looks nothing like these guys. And I remember that was like the thing that was bugging me the most. Like, I was like, he doesn't, like, he's not my type. He's not my type. And then I was like,
Yeah,
why does that make a difference? If he's my type in every other way, why am I being such a drama queen?
because
You
I
know what I
don't think we realized that there was more to a type than physical appearance
mean? Mhm.
until
Yes.
last week.
Boom. Yes. Amen.
And like
I
that's the
agree.
other thing, is I think that people also, this is like, now we're kind of jumping around, but I think people are like, oh, this is my type, this is my type. And then you are never dating someone that actually is your type, because
Yeah.
for I don't know why, but like I think like my type, my last boyfriend did not look like that.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been in a relationship with a skater dude ever in my life.
Yeah.
So are they actually my type? Like what? So I think it's like, I don't know.
Yeah. It's weird because I also feel like once you, if you're too, it's fine if you gravitate towards something like whatever, but I also think you need to like ask yourself why this is happening and not just like blindly trust your instincts. Like, of course, like
Mhm.
listen to your stomach feeling most of the time, but other times question that motherfucker.
Find a really good friend who will question it for you.
Yes. Where was I going with this? Oh, I also feel like if people keep being like, "Oh, he's not my type," or she's not my type, you're also selling yourself short. Like, you
Mhm.
were literally being like, I only want to meet these people, talk to these people because they're my
Mhm.
type. And it's like, why? There's so many other people in this world that you don't know, you haven't met, you haven't tried
Mhm.
out. That sounds weird, but you know what I mean? Like, you should, even if, and that's also why I'm like on dating apps, I'm like, you should just take it for what it is. You're just
Mhm.
meeting someone, having a drink with this person, and that's it. Like, you don't have to be like, he's not my type, she's not my type. Well, maybe they could be. You don't know. Like, why are we what?
Maybe they're your type in
Right?
every other way.
Yeah, capacity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good word.
Wow, I'm just throwing so many good words out here today. It's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
Um,
Another thing that I thought was interesting, and I feel like we are always like, you have to be confident, you have to whatever. And that also plays a role because if you grow up, and like that's the other part, when you're like, things change, people, your type changes, and that's because you grow up. And like, hopefully you go to therapy and you figure your shit out and you figure out who you are and what you want to be and all that shit. And like, you find people when you were saying, when you're like, I can't go out with this person, they're not my type. You're basically like, I was laughing because I thought you were going to be like, you're manifesting something because I know that's our new thing. But if you're constantly putting out into the world that you are like insecure and you're not pretty and you're not whatever, you're going to find people who make you feel that way. And you're going
oh
to
my
find
God,
people
yes.
who put that energy into you because that's what you're putting out into the world. But if you're with somebody, like if I'm like, I'm the shit, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to run the world, I need to be with someone who allows me to think like that and supports my thinking of that.
Yes. Amen, sister.
And
Did we
that's
listen to the same
why
podcast?
what
Maybe.
we're on the same podcast.
No, like I thought we listened to the same episode of this other podcast that I was like, you are just mentioning all the good stuff.
Oh, no, I read this online and
Oh.
I was like, yeah, it's all things that you're always like, yeah, I should have already known this, but now it makes more sense to me that I'm reading it. Like it all feels like common sense, but it's not common sense because everyone's fucking it up.
Yeah. And I also feel like common sense very quickly gets like we leave it behind. Like as I feel like we've mentioned this in a couple of episodes before, probably with the loneliness, that it's like once you're in your feelings and once you like whether it's just like your own feelings or whether you have these feelings for someone else, all rational thinking like goes out the door. And I feel like that's why we get so like caught up in what this person looks like or how they're acting and if they're your type or not. You know what I'm trying to say? Again, I'm just kind of rambling, but I really do think it's important that we, even though we have these types and even though we like gravitate towards some people, that's fine. But I think it's important to know why we do and to question it, to make, to, as you said, like be like, do my closest friend, the people that mean the most to me, do they like this person? Or is it just because I'm like, he needs to fit into my type of box? Or, what's another example? Like, does he make me better as a human being? Does she make me better as a human being? Like, am I the best when I'm around her or him, like, whatever it is, instead of just being like, well, we're gonna have beautiful babies together because he's my type.
Yes. But do you actually want to have babies with someone that's your emotional type? Like right now, my emotional type would be somebody who is emotionally unavailable. So. What? Like that's how do you I should research that. How do you break out of your emotional type? Because I am someone who's like, I'm the shit, I'm cool, I'm worth it, I'm whatever. I'm like my own biggest fan, which everyone should be. But I'm not attracted to people who think that about me. I'm attracted to people who are like
interesting.
I'm attracted to people who I feel like maybe need to work on themselves, and probably because I want to help them work on themselves, but how that's I don't know.
Wait, yeah, dude, I never thought about that.
I know,
How interesting is that? Like
my friends that are gonna listen to this are gonna be like,
yeah, because I mean, I used to have a type. Like, I feel like I used to be very superficial. I still am to some degree. I'm not gonna like say I'm not. I still am, and I still want people to look good. But I feel like when I was younger, it might just be again something that was familiar. But like obviously, like growing up in the swimmer world, everyone had like abs of steel and like had broad shoulders and were like so attractive and fit. And I feel like even after I stopped swimming, I was like so picky with how someone looked. Like even if we had a good date and even if like we got along, I'd be like, yeah, I'm just not into it because like or like the way he looked, yeah, physically he was not my type. But then I don't even know when it changed. I don't, maybe it's like literally been the last year Because it definitely wasn't. Maybe it was New York. I don't know.
Would you say that? Would you say that swimmer bodies were your type for a while because it wasn't in New York?
No, maybe it was like right when I moved to New York that I was just like, fuck it. Like I'll be less superficial. Cause like when I was in LA, I was not I didn't even meet anyone because I was like, this is how they have to look. And then like once I started being like more open to just like going on a date with someone and just like meeting them for who they are and their personality, I was like, wait a second. Maybe I do like blonde haired guys. Or like, you know what I mean? Like instead of being so picky and being so like they have to look this way, they have to have 4 tattoos on their right arm, they have to be like blah blah blah. I started being more open about it, and I started meeting all these like amazing guys. Like didn't work out with most of them clearly, but I don't know. It was less pressure also because it was like when I did meet the apps, like as we mentioned before, when I did meet the guy that lived up to every single expectation and the perfect type for me, I was bored. I was bored out of my mind.
Which is a real bummer you got to him first because he really fits everything that I need. So just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm half kidding. But I think it's really funny that for a while your type was swimmer boys because that does fit your environment. But it's also funny because I look at swimmer boys with their long, lanky bodies and abs, and I'm like, ugh.
Oh my God, that's so interesting. Yeah, no, I for sure, like 100%. And
yeah,
then it
because you're surrounded by
guys.
them. Yeah, you're surrounded by them morning, noon, and night. So it makes sense. Wow. It's so interesting. I need to go back to the card reader and have her tell me what the fuck is up with my type. I want to be like, what's my type? Someone just
What's
tell
my
me.
purpose in life?
So interesting. Look at you. That's on growth, everybody.
I know.
Lia is maturing.
I know. Now, next up, Olivia Deacus.
Fasten your seatbelts for whenever it's coming.
Might be a while.
Yes, it may. But
okay, so what's our conclusion? How do we feel? I feel like we've kind of gone over it a couple times, so how we actually feel. I really didn't think. Now that I think about it, I definitely have had a type, but when you were like, let's do an episode on types, I was like, I don't think that's an actual thing. Like I'm still mind blown that it is an actual, like that there's a science and there's biology behind it. Because I sure as hell did not think that. I thought it was just a modern day basic girl thing to make up.
That's why we don't agree on it.
Well,
now we agree. We should just do a podcast about all our other fights, all our other disagreements, whatever they may be. This is my conclusion. Are you ready for it? I think that you should bop around, hook up with the dudes on a very surface level thing that you think are your type, but continue to go on dates with people that look very different from that. That's what I say.
Okay. I like that. I feel like that's exactly what I did in New York. Basically. Yeah. No one looks alike at all.
You can't help who you love. Oh, says my mom.
Oh, gosh. Credit to her.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And I feel like I'm like being repetitive, but I think it's fine to have your types, and I feel like it's fine to have like what you think will be like your knight in shining armor, as long as you like ask those critical questions when it comes to like reality, if that makes sense. Like as we said before, like ask the questions like, does he really make me feel good, or is it just because the way he looks, or does she motivate me? Like, do I want to be a better person when I'm around her, or is it just because she has big boobs and a fake butt? I don't know.
That's my type for sure. There's this thing online that's like 20, I don't know what the number is, but it's 20 questions that will make you fall in love with anybody. And it's super interesting. I actually did it on like a third or fourth date with a guy that I was seeing for a little while, and it was actually really fun. And I do feel like I connected with him the most out of people, but yeah, you should do that if
Oh my God, send that my way. I am eating sushi and doing that tonight, so I will report back. It's kind of like
Okay.
we're not really strangers, which, by the way, you should sponsor us if you're listening to this.
Yeah, I've emailed you 15 times. Email me back.
But yes, conclusion, I think it's important to think about the qualities we find desirable in a person and who we want to see ourselves with, not as a type, but being realistic and like looking in towards ourselves and seeing what we want and what we need for our life. And that's really all I have.
And that's really the tea.
The fucking tea. And we're also at 30 minutes, so that's basically a wrap.
Yes. So
And
don't forget to use all of our discount codes, guys. The more you use our discount codes, the more we get hyped up. So please, just for the love of God, buy some wine, get drunk, use Here's My Number for Bev, and go to HB Coffee Company and buy coffee.
Yeah.
For us.
Yeah. If you are listening, this is us asking you specifically, go leave us a review, go show us some love, hype us up on social media, because
share it with your friends.
Yeah. Share it with your girlfriend that just went through a breakup. Or
we know you're sick of giving them advice, so let us give it to them.
We got you.
Along.
We're here to save 2021. So, on that note, I would say peace, love, blessings.
Bye.